Welcome to Habs Unfiltered, episode 252. I'm your host, Blaine Pudnight, and I'm joined now by my co-host, Treg Wilson.
Hello.
So it's been a long week in between shows with all of us. We had the interview with Jake Furlong last weekend. I think that went pretty well. It was a short show, so we got a lot of ground to cover, and it's all about this past weekend.
It was a very up and down weekend. I guess I'll just start with a little. Carey Price is not with the team right now. He's not injured or anything. They're just giving him a break away from the team. He's scheduled to play the last game of the season, so he's just not going to travel. I read on Twitter that some people are saying it's because he's not vaccinated, which is totally untrue. Because he couldn't play in Montreal if he was unvaccinated. So, and he went to New York to get surgery or checks on his knee, and he's traveled back and forth to the United States many times. So plus he played in Columbus. So anyway,
sorry to burst the bubble on that one.
Sorry to burst the bubble on that rumor, but he is vaccinated, so is his wife. And yeah, so anyway.
Yeah,
ending that. I'll start with that, and then we'll get into our other stuff that we're going to talk about.
Yeah. And before we get into the hockey, I just wanted to pass on my condolences to a former shipmate's family. Mike Coggins passed away over the weekend, quite suddenly and unexpectedly. He was a huge Flyers fan, which he
was.
Yeah, it was something that we like to pick on each other.
He was a Steelers fan. So
yes, he was. Yeah.
So that's
it was all about Philly and Pittsburgh. For some, I don't know how that worked.
I don't know.
But he did.
He taught me Ramses. So that's where I learned Ramses from him. Then he went on to work for Lockheed Martin. He was with them for 9 years. Yeah. I tried to recruit me to Lockheed Martin, but I didn't go. Maybe I should have. So it's a sad day. I knew Mike Coggins well. And he was a fun guy. He was always seemed to be in a good mood. Loved his children. Was very proud of his son and his daughter.
Oh yeah.
He'll be missed. It was a shock when I heard about it today.
Yeah. I was quite taken aback. So
he was only 54, I think, 54 years old.
53, 54. Yeah.
He was born in 68, I think. So
yeah, he wasn't much older than us.
Nope.
Although he was older than us, and I made sure to pick on him for it.
I just picked on the fact he was a Phillies fan.
Well, there's that too.
I kept telling him, whenever you guys get a goaltender, maybe you'll do okay. Because they never had one since Ron Hextall.
No.
You think of something like that, and you start to think of your own mortality, and you think, hey, especially you and me, Blaine. I know Matt's a young whippersnapper, but you and I are pushing that half-century mark, and you start thinking about it. And I guess that leads into something we're going to talk about today, and that's the Canadiens legend, Le Demon Blanc, Guy Lafleur.
The Flower,
who at 70 years of age, whose birthday is the day before mine, by the way, September 20th. He passed away after battling many issues.
He's been fighting cancer for about 5-6 years,
and then he had his heart surgery. And that's two big NHL superstars we lost in a matter of 2 weeks. Mike Bossy,
exactly 1 week apart.
Exactly 1 week. Mike Bossy, and now Guy Lafleur. He joins the holy trinity of Jean Beliveau and Maurice Richard, and the form in the sky, I guess we could say.
He's going to be lying in state on the 1st and 2nd of May at the Bell Center. Fans can swing by and pay their respects to him. And his family was kind enough to allow Quebec to give him a state funeral on the 3rd. That's a big deal. You're talking about, they're saying goodbye to their father, their friend, uncle. It's usually a very private affair, but they're allowing everyone to join in with them in their grief.
Well,
That's
he meant so much to the province, to the Habs fans. I wrote an article recently for the Hockey Writers on what he actually meant to me. He was more. I mean, I was a bit young when he played. I never really got into hockey to '86, and I was a WA fan. By then, Lafleur had already retired.
retired the first time. Yeah.
Yeah, and but my grandfather was a huge fan of Lafleur. He used to tell me stories about it. And, if I was there in the winter, he'd have the hockey game on Saturdays when CBC actually showed Montreal Canadiens games.
But only from the second period on.
That's true. Yeah, that's right. Danny Gallivan was, actually, probably in the '80s, was more Dick Irvin and Harry Neal, but I'm aging myself here with these broadcasters. And then Bob Cole came into the picture. But it gave me, got me closer to my grandfather and stuff like that. The stories I heard about him. And then he was always talked about on this legend status, like this. There's hockey players, and then there's Guy Lafleur, Maurice Richard, Jean Beliveau, Mike Bossy, all these players who are way up here, not even for Montreal, but I mean, it does seem like Montreal has a lot more of those iconic players than some of the other teams.
Yeah, Montreal's been blessed with a lot of great hockey players.
Yeah.
And now with Lafleur getting his state funeral, this is now 4 former Montreal Canadiens that get a state funeral. You look at the statues in front of the Bell Center: Howie Morenz, Maurice Richard, Jean Béliveau, and now Guy Lafleur. All 4 have been given a state funeral. Those 4 players are head and shoulders above the other legends in the Canadiens. Like there's a special ring just for them.
Yeah, and it's a special ring that's deserved, especially Montreal is rich in French culture, and whether you like it or not, and that'll be a debate that will go on forever. These guys just didn't play hockey, but they brought a whole culture together and encouraged them to become hockey players, encouraged them to become, and I think that's why they're treated like gods, I'd say. Well, no, I mean, gods is probably a strong word, but like Sergio Momesso, I was driving home Saturday night from a seminar I was at in Moncton for bodybuilding, and I was listening to the game on satellite radio, and Sergio Momesso was telling a story about even after Lafleur was playing, used to play the little alumni games, he would pick up Sergio Momesso, and people's neighbors would be like, "Is that Guy Lafleur picking you up?" He was like, "Yeah, Guy Lafleur chauffeuring you." He goes, "That's just the way Guy was. Like, he didn't look at himself as any better than anyone else." He was like, "Hey, Sergio, you need a ride? I'll give you a ride." Like, it wasn't. And I had the pleasure of meeting him one time in Penhorn Mall. He was signing autographs outside the old Sobeys. I don't know if you're from Nova Scotia, remember Penhorn Mall, but it's kind of not there anymore, and kind of is. But and I met him, and there was only a couple people at the table. It was one of the last ones, and I put out a hockey card, and he goes, "Oh, it's a rookie card. I can't sign that. Like, I'm not going to ruin your rookie card." He got out another card, and we talked for a good 10, 15 minutes, and it was very nice, very personal. I had time for everybody. Always had time for everyone.
He was, I got the opportunity to talk to him a few times. And the last time I got to talk to him, I was on the HMCS Montreal in Montreal. It was during the floods back in 2017-ish. And we got all dressed up in our whites, and we went down to the children's hospital because the kids wanted to see military. So we went in, and we were visiting the kids, and one kid was in isolation, but he really wanted to meet a sailor. And I was the only one that was Francophone in the group. So they sent me in, and I walk in, and I'm introducing myself, and everyone's in the scrubs. And I thought it was his grandfather. I said, "Oh, nice to meet you." And he's like, "Yeah, Guy." I'm like, "Oh, okay." Took me a few minutes. I'm like, this guy looks familiar. It was Guy Lafleur. He was just there. He goes there all the time. And I got to talk to him for a good half hour after. And we did not talk one bit about hockey. Everything was about his family and my family. And that's how he was. just a normal guy.
Like when we talked at the mall there, we talked about my grandfather. I said he was a huge
Yep.
fan of yours. I was a huge fan of Richard. I said, I'm a bit young. I don't really. When I remember watching Guy play, he played for the Rangers in the Nordiques. I'm not saying I didn't watch any of his games, but I really wasn't into hockey.
Yeah.
When I was 9-10 years old. So it was later on, and he came back in '89, I believe, with the Rangers.
88.
And 88. And I remember the game at the Forum. Where he first game at the Forum, when he came back, he got the standing ovation when he showed up. He scored 2 goals and the roof came off the Forum. So if you can imagine the Canadiens cheering for the opposing team when they score a goal, it's almost like going to Ottawa and watching a Montreal-Ottawa game. It's, everyone cheers for Montreal. I say that because I'm moving to Ottawa, and so it's just one of those. That's how special he was. He didn't have to play for the Canadiens for them to want him to score. And then I remember watching on television, 4 saisons, TQS there.
Yeah.
I watch more than hockey on TQS, but anyway.
On a Bleu Nuit every now and then.
Bleu Nuit, we came on after the hockey game, so you had to stay up to watch Saturday Night Live.
Yeah.
But watching the Quebec games and watching him play, and that's where I got to see, in the twilight of his career, I got to see him play. But it was a pleasure to watch him. He even with the Nordiques, he had the speed, he had the IQ, he had the tenacity, he had he just captivated you. Just watching him play captivated you. His hair flowing in the wind as he's skating up the ice, and it's just he'll be missed. He'll be missed. And like you say, he was always at the Children's Hospital. He was always having fundraisers to raise money for the hospital. Even right up until I believe last year, he was still doing things and making appearances. When I tweet about this, I feel bad for Chantal Maccabi. We all talk about losing our hero and stuff like that, but he was a friend to her. He was, they were very close. I'm watching the game. We're going to get into the Bruins game. But I think the thing that got me the most during the ceremony was Yvonne Cornway. I
started crying at that point.
So, I'm not a very emotional person, but that kind of hit me in the feels. And then he was saying on TSN, I think 590, how he feels alone now because everyone's gone. And, that kind of hits you, that kind of thing. Like you look at the alumni, and he was the one that played with them the most. And
9 years, I think.
Out of all of them, like he was there. I don't know if he played with Richard. I don't know if he was that far back, but
no, Richard retired
Henri for sure. Henri for sure.
Yeah.
And then I don't know, that just got me. Like it's almost like you're watching someone lose their best friend, and so I wouldn't feel that way about you, but
I understand.
He's what. It didn't happen before. What foreign port did they find him in? I joke. Oh, okay, I get it.
That it got stabbed in Spain again.
I told him.
Every time.
But no, back to Lafleur. It's just he'll be missed. I loved how they took away the advertisements and just put Guy Lafleur, his birth date, his name, his signature, his number.
That was huge. All the advertisers agreeing to leave everything out and let them honor Lafleur.
Right. And the press conference that Jeff Molson put, that was kind of touching too. Chantal Maccabi trying to hold herself together. Jeff Molson tried to hold himself together. And it's just, it's going to be a somber few days coming up, especially next week when the Flying Estate's going to be there. There's going to be thousands of people going there.
If there's one, there's a million.
But yeah. And it's going to be similar to what we saw with Beliveau and Richard. So, yeah. What more can you say, really? I know you were a huge fan of Lafleur.
Yeah. I got to watch him play live a bunch of times.
I
My
get to watch them
dad,
in alumni games and stuff like
yeah.
that. Not
Well,
actual Montreal games, but
my dad was his hockey team. On his hockey team, he had a Labatt and a Molson rep on his team, so he's able to get tickets to all these different hockey games. And Labatt and O'Keefe worked together, so we were able to get to games in Quebec. Molson worked with the Canadiens, so we were able to get a bunch of tickets there at the Forum. And I remember in '82, early in the year, I was 6 years old. My dad dragged me into the Forum, and I got to watch Guy Lafleur, and they were playing Buffalo, and Lafleur never scored, but every time he touched the puck, the whole place, and I was 6, and I remember it like it was yesterday. The whole place just, everyone stood up a little bit, edge of their seat, and they were watching. And I swear to God, every time he had that puck on his stick, something happened. He had a few assists at that game. I think 2 or 3, at least 2. It was a 7-7 tie against Buffalo.
80s, the 80s.
Yeah. Well, they got swept by Buffalo in the playoffs that year. I remember that. And then I saw him score a bunch of goals in '84, his last year. I went to a game early on that season, and I think he had like 29 goals that year. Watching him and Mats Naslund on the power play, just lighting teams up. They were playing the Rangers. They beat them 7-4. And Lafleur ended up scoring the game-winning goal that game. I remember that.
Yeah, no, I remember playing just like the alumni games or the NHL Star games where Maurice Richard was the referee. And of course, he would steal the puck and go in on a breakaway. And get a goal and
score for whatever team he liked.
I was fortunate enough. My dad took me to one of those games. Fortunate enough to actually meet Maurice Richard in the dressing room because they would let the kids go in the dressing room afterwards. I remember that. I don't remember meeting Guy there. I remember him playing, but I don't remember meeting him there. But I think I was just so. I was like 9 or 10. Just meeting Richard was Maurice Richard. This is the Maurice Richard. Again, someone my grandfather watched was one of his heroes. But and then you think back, we look at our heroes like Mats Naslund, Patrick Waugh. I grew up Guy Carbonneau, Chris Chelios. That was my growing up. And then you hit the 90s, and then you get the 2090s. There wasn't really too many. Well, I guess there's still Patrick Waugh and your Desjardins and your Schneiders and your Patrice Brisbois and
Saku Koivus
and but we haven't had a player like Guy Lafleur. We haven't had a player in Montreal that everyone wants the edges. Subban maybe when he first came in, a little bit. But you didn't have that guy who you knew would take control of the entire game, and that's what I think that's what Montreal needs. I think that's what they're looking for when they try to get a French player like Drouin or someone like that. And that type of player is just rare nowadays. It's just rare.
They were rare back then. They've always been rare. The pressure put on the young guys now to try and live up to that, I think, is too much. You cannot live up to someone like that. Especially
a francophone player in Montreal.
Anyone. Anyone.
We can talk about next season when a certain francophone player is going to be a free agent. Jonathan Huberdeau. I personally doubt he's going to come to Montreal, but you never know. Maybe he can, because he's pretty exciting to play there in boring Florida. But I still don't think you're going to get a player like Guy Lafleur.
No, and the fans let you know too, because that ovation, that would probably lay in the top 2 or 3 of all time in that city.
It reminded me of the when they opened the new Molson Bell Center and Maurice Richard came out with the torch.
That was when they closed the forum.
When they closed the forum, correct. Yeah. It kind of reminded me of that because that was a similar. The announcer there, what's his name? I keep forgetting his name. The announcer there at the Bell Center.
Yeah,
anyway, he kept trying to, and the crowd just wouldn't let him. They were like, nope. Yeah. Now they clocked it at 10:10. I'm not sure if it was really 10 minutes and 10 seconds long, but they officially clocked it at 10:10.
I was going by my watch. It was it was a little over 10 minutes.
I'll believe them. I'll believe them just because
it was more than 10.
I believe that, but I think it was more than 10:10 too. I think it was probably closer to 11 or 12. But anyway, It reminded me of that. And you know what? Patrick Waugh said, be loud for Guy. And they were. Like, even when they said a moment of silence, you could still hear them, Guy, they did get silent, but
for the most part. Yeah, but some of the fans were still listening to what Patrick Roy said, and they were trying to do just that. And I wouldn't have had an issue with that. I mean,
no,
I don't really.
Guy was just that special. Like, cheer for him, cheer for what he did. Don't mourn his loss. Cheer for what he brought you. And
Michel Lacroix after the game said he was happy that they kept cheering over him every time he tried to interrupt. He would have. Well,
he didn't try very hard.
No, he didn't.
He started, and then he was like, "Oh no, I'm going to let them go."
Yeah.
No, I'm going to. It's almost like he was trying to tease them into doing it.
And then when he finally got that moment, so that they can have their moment of silence at the end of it, he's like, you know what? I'm going to throw it back at them, and he announced, "Mesdames et Messieurs, Guy Lafleur," and everyone lost their shit again.
Yeah. And it's just it was a very good celebration of his life put on by the Canadiens. And I mean, hate them or love them, the Canadiens put on a show for everything. They do it classy, they do it right, and they always get it right the first time.
It's simple, it's elegant.
Yeah.
Just like the thing with the boards. Simple, elegant, to the point.
His number at the center ice. And then the video montage of him on either ice facing both sides, so both sides get to see it. And it's just it's just one of those things you'll never forget as a Habs fan. I'll never forget the torch thing with Richard. I'll never forget that. I'll never forget 93 when they won the cup, and Patrick Waugh says, "I goes to Disney's Land," and it's just one of those things. And I'm glad I got to see him play, even though it wasn't really with Montreal. I mean, I did see him play with Montreal. I just don't remember him playing with Montreal. But I'm glad I got to see that. Yeah.
And in watching the ceremony, you get to see the players down there. They zoomed in on them a little bit, and you got to start to wonder what's going through their minds. Like, you look at the young guys like Caulfield and Suzuki. What are they thinking when they see the pure love coming down from the fans for someone who hasn't played for the team since the early 80s? But it's as if he'd never left.
It's like when he came back with the Rangers.
Yep.
He wasn't even playing. He scored 2 goals on St. Patrick, and the fans roared.
Sure,
I mean, Montreal ended up winning that game. I think they won 5-2, 5-3 or something.
Doesn't matter.
Like that, but doesn't matter. They could have lost 6-1 as long as Guy scored. They did not care.
People love that man because when he was scoring for the Nordiques in Montreal, they cheered for him.
Yeah. Every time.
Yeah.
And he deserved it. He deserved every bit of it. I guess one thing we take away from this, kids, is don't smoke.
Yeah.
Guy was a huge smoker, and I think that's what led to his health problems that he has now. Just like Mike Bossy. But let's not dwell on that. Let's just dwell on the
in watching that ceremony. If anyone who watched that still doesn't say that Montreal is the hockey mecca, there's something wrong with you.
Like I said, I was talking to a guy who works a huge Bruins fan. He thought that was fantastic. He actually wanted Montreal to win that game and they tried. I think we're going to get into the game soon.
Yeah, we'll get into the game in a bit. But I wanted to talk a little bit about Suzuki.
Okay.
Because everyone's talking about him as the next leader, and he's on the ice for the starting lineup, and he's looking up at the fans going nuts, and he's following Gallagher at the end of the game, so they can salute the number 10 up in the rafters, which
that was pretty classy.
Very classy.
Gallagher do that.
Yeah. But Suzuki at the end of the game had said that he wants to take a page out of Guy Lafleur's book and to leave a positive impact on people he comes across. Every time fans come up to me, I take the time to speak to them, sign autographs. It's part of being a Canadian, leading by example in the community. All that stuff is top of line for me, and I want to keep doing it for the rest of my career. I'm sure the other guys want to do that too. And that's exactly what Guy did. Like you mentioned earlier, he didn't see himself better than anyone.
No, and I mean, I'm glad I listened to the game Saturday night on Sirius XM because I got this. They basically just talked about Guy Lafleur.
Yeah.
Ottawa did a nice ceremony. Montreal played terrible against Ottawa, but no one cared. It was just about Guy. Like no one cared. It didn't seem like anyone cared about the game, like the announcers and that. Like they called the game, but they just wanted to tell their stories about Guy. And I was okay with that. I mean, in this dumpster fire of a season, you lose a legend, but in that loss, it brought the fans closer together. So even in Guy's death, he's igniting a fire into the fans. And they proved it at the game in Boston where it was just a packed house and it was just off the roof.
I thought it was really fitting that the first game back in Montreal, it was Boston.
Yeah. Well, I tweeted that night, I said, wouldn't it be fitting that Montreal will be down by a goal and they score a goal on a slapper by Caulfield when the Bruins have too many men on the ice penalty?
It came close. They had 8 or 9 guys on the ice and one of them played the puck, but they didn't call it.
Yeah.
Near the end of the game.
I thought that would have been poetic justice.
Oh God, yeah.
Then to come back and win it in overtime, but it wasn't meant to be.
No, but they did score their first 2 goals on every 10th shot.
Yeah, I read that. Yeah,
because Anderson scored on shot number 10. Was it Pitlick? Scored the second goal on the 20th shot, and then Suzuki went and ruined it and scored on the 21st shot. What a jerk.
Suzuki. Lasting impression, my arse.
But I thought it was fitting. I mean, you have an ovation of 10 minutes. They're scoring every 10th shot. The signs were there. Like it's just too much it looks like the ghosts are coming back.
Yeah.
They're making themselves known.
Well, Watt did pack him in his suitcase and took him to Colorado. So maybe he let them out.
Maybe. Or there's some new ones joining the team. Like if Guy is not one of the ghosts now.
Jean Beliveau. Guy.
Maurice Shaw. Making the final might have woken them up.
Hopefully.
They took a break this year, but we'll see what happens.
Kind of hope they take a break next year.
But to the game itself, I mean, the Canadiens showed up and they played their hearts out, but they clearly are missing the skill to compete with a team like Boston.
Well, all right. First, we'll talk about the 9-game losing streak,
which ties a club record for the most losses in a row in regulation since 1940.
Right. Everyone's going on that Martin St. Louis' honeymoon phase is over and he's no better than what the guy, like, I'm just going by whatever he does, stupid social media.
On Elon Musk's Twitter.
That affects me zero. But anyway, sure the guy's a douchebag, but I don't care. By the way, Elon Musk, if you want to be on our show.
Yeah, fucking douchebag.
Listen, the team is a much different team under Martin St. Louis. There hasn't been 2 games where they're out of the game early, even in this losing streak. But you have to consider Sherratt's gone, Lekkonen's gone, Drouin's basically gone. He's not coming back. Half their defense is young guys just learning to play the game.
Yeah, the team's been decimated by trades. Yeah. They're a young team. The big difference between the 2 coaches, St. Louis losing games, but he's already got a higher win percentage than Ducharme had. More importantly, it's the culture around the team. They're not accepting losses. They're not allowing they don't just give up a first goal and then crumble. I mean, they were losing by 6, 7, 8 goals a game. when Ducharme was there. Now, if they're down 3 or 4 goals, they're not out. They mount comebacks. They make it an entertaining game at the very least, and they're battling until the very end.
And for instance, against Boston, I mean, they went down 2-0 early. They shouldn't have went down 2-0 at all.
No, they should not have.
But they went down 4-1, I believe it was 4-1.
Yep.
And then they got the 2 goals in the third, came back 4-3. They played an excellent third. But the third period was theirs. Shots were a bit even, but Montreal controlled the play. Montembeault played well. I'm not going to say anything bad about Montembeault in this game. I don't think he
couldn't have played better than what he played.
Yeah, I don't think he let any bad goals in that I'm trying to think of.
No, I don't think so.
I thought he played well. I mean, and
but that last one, like, where was he? Where was he on the 5th goal?
Wasn't even on the ice.
Wasn't even there.
He's looking for Lindgren's jockstrap up in the crowd. Everyone knows I'm not a Montembeault fan. I totally think they should turf that guy at the end of the season, but
it's not his fault though.
Well. It's not his fault, but I don't think he's NHL material. That's just me. Anyway, I'm not going to get into that. Doesn't matter. But I thought he played well. I thought he played well in that game. I think it was smart for them to call up Primo because I think we said it on our little message there on Twitter. I said, I think they brought Primo in. So if Montembeault shit the bed, they don't have to put Price into the game and Montembeault's not going to get shelled. But he didn't shit the bed. He played well.
That first period, if it wasn't for him, that score would have been way out of reach already.
He made some big saves in that first period. Let's get to the penalty shot. So
you mean the penalty shot that should never have freaking happened?
I'm going to say this, not a Huffman fan, but that was probably the best defensive play he ever did in his entire career.
And they gave him a penalty for it.
No, they didn't even give him a penalty. I would have took the penalty. I would have said, all right, sure, give him the penalty. But they gave a penalty shot to a guy who didn't even have a clear breakaway to begin with.
And only had one hand on his damn stick. And he just dropped it when Hoffman's stick touched his.
Right. Hoffman actually just put his stick over and around to try to get the puck.
Yeah.
And then I don't even know who it was.
Holla.
And he just dropped his stick. And everyone's like, that's a penalty shot. The reffing, I don't normally, and you know this, I don't normally bitch about reffing. But the reffing in that game was terrible. It was just terrible.
Yeah, we'll get to some other examples there, but that one play
changed the entire game.
It did, and it was complete and utter fucking horse shit, that call. That was, if that was done by, I don't know, a Florida Panther coming back and covering a Nashville Predator, that would have been hailed as a highlight of the night, and it wouldn't even been a call. But because the referee was in the wrong position to watch the play, and it was Hoffman, who, let's be honest, is not known for back checking.
That was a perfect defensive play. I was like, is that Hoffman?
If you're telling me that St. Louis is not a better coach than Ducharme, he just got Hoffman to do a back check. Name me another coach who's done that.
To actually play defense.
Yeah. Name another coach that's got him to do that.
And I'll be honest, actually, Hoffman has done a couple good defensive moves the last month or so.
Yeah.
Not many.
He's had a lot of brain cramps where he's given pucks away too. But at least he's trying things. He's trying to make things happen. Yeah, he'll screw up. But that play there, he did everything right. And he still got nailed for it.
And he shouldn't have gotten anything.
No.
And then, of course, he came down and scored. Montembeault didn't stop it, but the penalty
shot. Good shot.
50-50. It was a good shot. It's right out of the glove, right above the pad. Yeah. And it changed the entire complexity of the game. So then you go into the second period, and Montreal was okay in the second period. I thought. And
Petrie goes up, does the unforgivable play of body checking their captain.
And then Marchand has a fit about it, and you're thinking to yourself, "This is nothing you wouldn't have done, Marchand." And
it was no. It's something he wouldn't have done because it was a clean hit.
True. And they go for a little wrestling match on the ice. That was the end of the first period, was it not? Or
that was the end of the first, yeah.
Yeah. And then
that was with Frederick. Frederick came after him at the end of the first.
Correct. And Frederick got the penalty at the end of the first, because
Yeah.
I think they went to the power play to start the first, and then
And they scored.
That's right. Yeah. So and then we can move forward to the third period where they make it a 1-goal game. And then Marchand decides he wants to spear Anderson in the nuts.
Yeah, see that play there, that they were battling along the boards, and then Marchand got a high stick up on Anderson. It looked accidental to me. Like it looked like an accidental high stick. Shit like that'll happen. Anderson took it on the chin, reacted. Arm went straight up. The referee was right there. He saw the play happen. At least they called this high stick. They didn't call the one that smashed Gallagher in the face a couple of minutes before.
What? You don't call penalties on
shocking,
Gallagher.
I know.
He's too short.
Yeah. But then Anderson kind of just skates towards the front of the net because the play was continuing. And then Marchand follows him, spears him in the nuts, trying to get him to take a penalty. All Anderson does is just push him away and backs off. He doesn't engage. He does. And somehow, some way, they both get a fucking penalty. What the fuck was that?
Read the rules. And apparently if you stare at an opponent too hard and too long, especially if he's smaller than you, that's a penalty.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, it was put in the second period.
Yeah.
To the rules in the second
in
period.
that very moment.
In that very moment. And that's what he got the penalty for.
The anti-licking rules.
You can't stare at a player smaller than you for too long. It's like when two players are fighting for the puck and one player is bigger and knocks the other player down, it's an interference call.
Unless your name's Gallagher. Then it's just a clean play.
That's right. So there was a lot of the refereeing was terrible. The refereeing
honestly, that was one of the worst
anyway.
officiated games I've seen in the year. Like it's not the worst, but it's up there.
Now the Ottawa game had two very new referees in it, and it was a much better called game than this Boston game.
Yeah.
Who had two veteran referees.
Yeah.
And according to Gary Bettman, or as Joe Biden likes to say, Batman, they have the best officiating in all sports in the world.
Now, someone brought this up to me on Twitter last night during the game, and it's something that I've gotten into many times over the last couple of years. They're allowing betting on games right now. Who in their right fucking mind that spends money on gambling, especially sports gambling, looks at a game like that and thinks, this is a league that I know I won't get screwed out of my money.
But you will, because the referees control the game.
And you don't know from one game to the next which referee has a grudge with which guy or which team or whatever the hell's going on. Maybe his wife left him that night and he's just being pissy. You just don't know. There's no consistency. I'm not saying that the officials are horrible. They need to be consistent with what they do, and they're not.
I look at it two ways. And I always said, I don't mind if a referee puts his whistle away, and I don't mind if a referee calls everything, as long as it's for both teams. And if you're going to call one play on one team, you have to call it on the other. So if you're letting hooking go, then you don't call a hooking penalty all game, unless it's unless it takes away a scoring opportunity. However, if you call a hooking penalty that takes away a scoring opportunity, well, then you better make sure you get a hooking you better make sure that if there's a hooking penalty on the other team that takes away a scoring opportunity, you call that play.
We're not seeing that. And that's a problem, especially for a league that's looking to make to recoup some of the losses from the pandemic through gambling.
Betting. And again, I'm not against referees not calling anything, as long as you don't call anything both ways.
Consistency.
Yeah. And it's no different. Like, for instance, if you have rules, here's the way I look at it. If you have rules and you call everything as you see it, the players will adapt. Because everyone's saying, then there'll be just a parade to the penalties and the games will be long. And players will adapt. They'll learn that I can't do that. They're going to call that. But now they don't know what they can or can't do. They don't know what's going to be let go or what's not going to be let go.
And it's not just
Right.
between different referees. It's one game to the next with the same referee. You just don't know
Yeah.
what that same person is going to do from night to night.
To me, there's one referee that's consistent. That's Wes McCauley. Wes McCauley, I think, is one of the most consistent referees in the
Yep.
game. He's entertaining, but he's not just entertaining. He's got a consistent, good referee. He
And he's
calls it like
vocal.
he sees it, and he'll talk to the players. He'll talk to the coaches. He'll, this is why I called this, or hey, I fucked up on that call. My bad. Right. And I think if the players and the coaches were allowed to be a little bit more vocal about the refereeing or the officiating in the game, then the referees can be a little bit more held, a little bit more accountable for what they do, because there's no accountability for a referee right now. The worst thing they're going to get is they're not going to get a playoff series, or they're not going to go deep in the playoffs. That's the worst that's going to happen to them.
And I see that comment made about officials after every game, regardless of what teams are playing. But they say everybody says that about every referee. Without any of them, there's no playoffs. So some of these guys are going to get playoff games, and you're going to see some really screwed up shit. But I almost guarantee you're going to see Wes McCauley in that final.
I hope, because he's one of the better referees.
Yeah.
But who else goes with him? That's just the thing.
Yeah. There's a lot that can be done to fix that, but we won't get into that here tonight. We'll go back to the game. And I want to talk about Petrie again. Petrie actually had a good game.
He had a good game in Ottawa too. Like he's been
did.
playing well the last couple games. He's engaging. He's driving the offense from the blue line. He's not shooting into the shin pads as much as he used to. And he's just overall better, both ends of the ice. Even on defense, he's covered his man better. He's playing better. I think Edmondson has a lot to do with it. I think they make a good pair. Edmondson gives him the freedom to be more offensive and jump up in the play. But I also think, again, I'm going back to Martin St. Louis. I think Martin St. Louis, the season's almost over too, and I believe we've seen the last of Petrie in a Montreal uniform.
I don't expect to see him next year. I
say that with pretty much 98% confidence he's not coming back. And I'm fine with that. I'm fine with. He wants out for family reasons. I don't think he wants out because he doesn't want to be a Canadian anymore. I think it's just easier for him to play in the States than it is in Canada with COVID and everything.
I mean, I can't really blame him. He wants to be around his wife and his 3 kids with one on the way. You can't blame someone for wanting to be near their family. And his family made a decision that living where they were just wasn't working for them anymore. And you can't blame them for that either.
Although there are some people that do blame them. And I'm less like, well, you know what? They don't want to live that way. They don't want to live that way. That's their choice.
I mean, you couldn't pay me money to live in Toronto. I absolutely hate that city. I'll go there if I have to, but I do not like Toronto. And I would rather live anywhere else. Djibouti. I would live in Djibouti before I live in Toronto.
You really hate Toronto.
Go up in Djibouti.
I'm not a big city guy. I lived in Calgary for a year, and I'm a East Coast. I like my cities to be 900,000 people
or less.
Or less. Now I'm moving to Ottawa, which is a big city. But from what I hear, it doesn't feel like a big city. So
it's a bunch of small towns all kind of cobbled together.
So I'm like you. Like if you're not happy somewhere, don't stay. Don't stay because you think you have to. And for those who be shitting on someone because they made a decision for their family to make their family and themselves their lives better.
Exactly. So I don't have any hard feelings on the guy for wanting to move on. The Canadiens are going to make a deal that suits their needs and his. I mean, it won't be a bunch of first round picks and top prospects and all that kind of garbage. But
you don't know what it's going to be. But I mean, I don't think it's going to be. I agree. I don't think it's going to be a first round pick, and
he's not going to score these massive returns. It's just going to be a standard hockey trade, something simple that kind of fills a need, save some money, that kind of thing.
I think it's going to be a contract for a contract.
Yeah,
Um,
but it's going to be a player that fills a need somewhere.
correct. And I don't think you're going to get a bum of a player either. I think you're
No.
going to get second or third pairing defenseman,
Or a
or
second or third line player.
Yeah, that's what you're going to get.
And for those who are worried about the trade value for Petrie because he had such a bad start to the year, well, since St. Louis came in, he has played much better. As a matter of fact, he's gotten 19 points in his last 24 games.
Yeah, it's almost a point per game.
He's playing almost back to the level he can. Like there's another step there, but GMs are going to look at that and say, okay, family stuff, the rest of the team sucked, injuries, COVID. It's one bad year, no big deal. His value is not going down.
No, and that's what I was going to say. They're going to look at what he's done. You don't get five straight 40-point seasons, and then all of a sudden forget how to play hockey.
Yeah, well, he did, but yeah.
I think he had so much on his mind and so much going through what he was doing that hockey just wasn't. I mean, we play sports. If it's not in your heart anymore, the effort isn't there.
And he wasn't getting along with the coach, and no fault of either Petrie or Ducharme, but the two just didn't jive, and that'll happen sometimes. Yeah. So,
and I don't think a lot of players on that team jived with Ducharme.
I think he had a hard time communicating what he wanted.
I don't think Ducharme's a bad coach.
No.
Let's get this one. I think you're going to see him back in the NHL either as an assistant or maybe a head coach somewhere.
And I think he'll do well.
And I think he'll succeed. I mean, he can't do much worse. But I don't think he had the team. The team wasn't built for his coaching style, just like it wasn't built for Julian's coaching style, and it wasn't built for Terrian's coaching style. And that's on Bergevin. Like, as much as people think I'm a what's it?
A Bergie boy or
a Bergie boy? What have I been called? Bergie boy,
bicep club
boy, bicep. Well, come on now.
Where are they? I don't see them.
They're too big.
I'm too tall. I have to look way down.
But a Bergen, what was it? Souvenistic and a
Bergenista.
And you would know this. I call a spade when it came to Bergevin. If I thought he did something wrong, I said it. I didn't mind Bergevin as a GM. I didn't think he was terrible. But I thought the fact that he didn't have the right coach for the team that he was trying to build. And it just showed. Because you had the same coach over and over and over again. And the same results. I mean, let's be honest, if it wasn't for COVID, we didn't make the playoffs the last 3 years.
But they did. And it looked as if he was planning for that because he was bringing guys in that did well in the playoffs. He had that
especially
saying of his. Yeah. Especially
you get guys that get you there, and you get guys that get you to the playoffs, and you get guys that get you through the playoffs. And he built the playoff team. We said that all last year. If they make the playoffs, they're going to go a round or two. We didn't think they were going to go to the cup, but they're going to go a round or two. And they did. They went right to the cup and
went up against maybe the best team in the cap era.
Because they had more players that fit in their cap than every other team.
Yeah.
After they made the playoffs.
Yeah. I think it was 100.
When the cap didn't count anymore.
$100 million. And I think Vasilevsky's pads grew 3 sizes per game.
Okay. Well, now we're exaggerating, but
no, he was the Grinch that stole the cup. So his pads grew 3 sizes that game.
I think Montreal just ran into a wall. The injuries caught up to them.
Yeah.
You just played 3 grueling series. I kind of wish they would have done it for Weber. Oh, I have to bring something up here. I'm just on my phone. So I wrote my piece about Guy Lafleur, and someone mentioned Shea Weber and why he never commented. So I'm going to address this right now. Shea Weber is no longer the captain of the Montreal Canadiens, first and foremost. He's not technically part of the team anymore. He is what I like to call semi-retired. He's being with his family and doing his health issues. So don't sit there and say, why didn't our captain speak? Because we don't really have a captain right now, which is why they said they're going to have a new captain next season. We're not going to have one this year. We're going to have 4 alternates. So why everyone keeps saying, oh, where's Weber? Weber's home. Weber is done hockey. Hockey is over for Weber. It's done. And if you ever played a sport and you ever got to the point where you can't play anymore, it's hard to be around the rink and it's hard to watch other people play the sport you love and want to play. So let's get over this whole where's Shea Weber thing. He's home, sort of retired. He's not the captain of the team anymore. Let's move on. Plain and simple.
It's just more of the same. People looking for reasons to be upset.
Yeah.
That's all it is. Anyone with any common sense would say, here's a guy who hasn't been around the team all freaking year. He's not coming back. They're like at the trade deadline, they openly admitted they were looking to trade his contract. They didn't say looking to trade Shea Weber. His contract. That says he is gone and he's not coming back.
He's not. And I wouldn't be shocked if his contract's traded in the offseason.
Yeah. There's a team that's only playing in a 5,000 seat arena that needs that kind of cap assistance.
Technically, it's 3,500 seats. But anyway, they're going to move it up. They're going to add 1,500 more seats, apparently.
Well, I mean, it's 3,500 seats. Unless you're married, then it's 5,000 seats.
We got to get Patrick Brown on the show because I would really like to talk about how the Arizona players feel about this university where they have to walk from another building to the rink so that they can have a proper dressing room. They have to build a dressing room off site that
and
they
then
have to
shuttle
walk
them in.
from, and then shuttle them in from the dressing room. Like this is not a joke. This is exactly what's going to happen. Because they don't have a dressing room in that building fit for NHL player. Actually, it would be fit for an NHL player in Guy Lafleur's time because it'd probably be the same type of dressing room. But because they didn't have these fancy dressing rooms with they probably had a bucket with ice in it that you put your feet in, and they were happy. You shared it with the beer. It's for both.
Yeah,
and you shared it with the guy next to you. So I don't. Anyway, that's a whole different story. I just don't get it. Like.
That sounds like a perfect episode after the season's done.
Yeah.
But
Patrick Brown of the Hockey Writers, if you're listening, he's our Arizona correspondent. The hockey, if you're listening.
Oh, and his choice for the Masterson today was Andrew Ladd, and that's who was picked.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He's part of the PHWA now.
Yes, he is.
So is Kristen Stiletto, the New Jersey girl.
Yes. You go look her up.
Yeah. Anyway, so just so you guys know, the Hockey Writers who we write for has been getting names, and they're getting people that are actually voting on these trophies that Carey Price is obviously going to win.
Joining the Professional Hockey Writers Association. Yeah.
Maybe Blaine and I will leave there soon.
Yeah, we have to live in an NHL city before that happens.
Yeah. Sorry, Kristen. I forget I think it's Kristen.
Yep.
Yeah, Kristen. I forget your last name, but anyway. I just know your Twitter handle.
Well, it's Christy.
Christy.
My God, man.
What you know me in names.
Christy Flannery. She was on the show.
Where was I?
You were probably gone somewhere. I don't know, working out at a bar. I have no idea.
Funny you mention that. Anyway, no, this is what I'm not going to get into. But there's a gym in Moncton right next to a bar, and when we were pulling up to it, these guys went on the door because you got to get buzzed in. Oh, and then the door would open, so then they walked to the bar, and it was kind of funny. I'm going to work out. Fuck, it's closed. I'm just going to go drink.
I'm going to get drunk. It was one or the other.
For some reason, I thought of you, Blaine. That's something Blaine would do.
I have worked out drunk before. I've ran a half marathon in Thunder Bay while drunk.
That's impressive.
I didn't know
Was
it was
it
a half
supposed to be?
marathon.
Was it supposed to be full marathon, and you could only get halfway through, or
I thought it was going to be a 5K, so we just started running. They pulled me out of my rack. I just crawled into my rack got back from the bar, got into my bed on the ship, and hey, we're gonna go run. I'm like, oh, okay, 5K fun run. Sure, yeah, sure, okay. I'll drink a little bit of water. I'll be fine. I look at the thing. I'm like, 7 kilometers. What the hell's going on? You're in a half marathon. Shit.
I don't have that good of a story, but I did go to South Africa. We're supposed to go on a safari, and Scott Langley, who was my boss, at the time. Scott says, "Hey, let me into the juniors. We can drink. It's no point going to bed now. We got to get up in 2 hours." All right, you're the boss. That was a terrible safari, and South Africa is fucking cold. I don't care what anyone says.
Well, I mean, in winter, yeah, it's in a temperate zone.
And it was winter there. Oh, it was cold.
Scott Langley was my rabbi coming up through the forces. Every rank level, he was right ahead of me, and every time I worked with him, I got promoted. So blame him. It's his fault.
I don't want to know how, but anyway, I'll leave that between you and Scott.
If you could run a half marathon drunk, he would get you promoted.
He got me my advanced Kalex, so I can't argue. Anyway, we're off subject here.
We're off subject. So let's just wrap this up. You have any final thoughts that are pertinent to actual hockey?
Enjoy the last 2 games of the season. It's almost over. We're guaranteed a top 3 pick. Top 4 pick.
Top 4 right now.
If we finish second, we can finish. The lowest we'll finish is 4. And you're going to get a good pick. It doesn't matter who it is. You're going to get a good pick. There's no generational talent in this draft. Wright's probably the best guy to get, but that doesn't mean, but anyone who we pick second, third, or fourth is going to help this team and be a star. It's just the way it is.
Probably a first line player. We're not talking elite player or generational talent.
He'll be similar to Suzuki and Caulfield. Like Suzuki and Caulfield are not going to be elite players, but they're going to get you 70, 80 points and maybe 30, 40 goals. And next guy we get in, hopefully it's probably going to be around there too. Eventually, not right away. So.
And for me, just letting everybody know, we're going to be slowing down the frequency of the shows. I mean, you've noticed that in the last couple of weeks, we've been unable to get our usual 2 per weeks done between Matt going away to Kuwait for deployment, you moving to Ottawa. I'm going to be getting surgery to fix my back and my ankle. So yay.
Okay, Weber.
Well,
too bad you weren't as good as him.
Too bad
you weren't as good as his broken knee.
If I was as good as his broken knee, I would not be in the Navy right now. I'd have been playing semi-pro hockey somewhere. But yeah, so the frequency is going to slow down a bit. We'll try and get a few episodes in, especially through the playoffs. We'll talk a little bit about our bandwagon picks and the draft picks coming up. Just to remind everyone as well, we will be in Montreal, at least Treg and I. And we're going to be at the draft, and we're going to be hosting a party post-draft at McLean's Pub, and everyone is welcome to join us.
And just so anyone else knows, I will be in Montreal in 2 weeks, for 3 weeks. So if anyone wants to get together at McLean's Pub, yes, I'm talking to you, McLean's Pub. You might get pretty busy. Or any other podcast groups, talking to you, Au Balotage. Was it Au Balotage?
Au Balotage.
Au Balotage. I don't speak very good French, but hey, I'll be on your show if you want me.
Matsu speaks perfect English.
Well, Pat's not bad.
Pat's pretty good.
Pat's pretty good. But I mean, I know they have a French podcast. That's why I'm saying.
You can invite them to the Vieux Mess.
Je parle français un peu. So.
Invite them over to the Vieux Mess in Saint-Jean-sur-Richelieu.
Yeah, we could do that. I could do that. That's going to be my mess. Oh, and I have one more thing to say. Liftoff Apparel. It's going to be one of our new sponsors. They make workout clothes, yoga pants for women, shorts for men, workout pants, shirts, muscle shirts, you name it, they make it. Sports bras for you, Blaine. Anyway, if you want a 15% off, it's unfiltered, just unfiltered. Go to the website, liftoff.ca. I believe it's going to be on our website, the link to their website, plus what you can get off. And every once in a while, we'll have a free giveaway for a shirt or something. So just so everyone knows, liftoff.ca, they ship anywhere in the world. It's run by an old Navy guy out of his apartment right now, but it's actually gotten quite big. Yeah.
He's huge in Japan.
Huge. He's bigger than me in Japan. And I'm not very big anyway.
No. All right. So I want to thank everybody for listening and supporting us this season. It's been a fun year. We'll have another episode before the end of the season, but again, thank you very much for listening. And remember, if you were talking about it, so are we.